Welcome to Talk Design Podcast, the space where creativity meets conversation. I'm Adrian Ramsey, your host, and as someone deeply entrenched in the world of design, I'm thrilled to introduce you to the minds that inspire me in the hope that they will spark something special within you too. From a design past crafting women's swimwear to pushing the boundaries of performance sportswear, from mountaineering to international yachting, to implementing systematic innovation solutions that transcend boundaries in aerospace industry. My heart remains rooted in architecture, and exploring the emotional tapestry woven by built spaces is my fascination. My journey in design has been what can only be described as a life of design. I want to thank you for lending me your ears. I'm eager to embark on this next episode together. And for those of you who prefer to watch and listen, you can catch this episode at YouTube. That's youtube.com/@talkdesignpodcast.
Okay.
My guest on Talk Design today is Sarah Idrissi Yazami, and Sarah is an interior designer from the Gold Coast of Australia. Now, she didn't originate in the Gold Coast. However, she lives and practices in the Gold Coast now. I met Sarah through Dream Homes Revealed, where I'm a host of the show, and fell in love with her work and thought, what a fabulous person she is, and I would love to bring you some stories from her. She has a most amazing history. She has a fantastic eye for interior design and the most wonderful bubbly personality. Sarah, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Adrian. I'm very, very happy and excited to be here today. And I can't wait to tell you more about everything.
I so enjoyed meeting you and also being immersed in the design that you've done, like being immersed in your work and your passion for your work and your passion for life just overflows, which I think is wonderful. I would like to start by you giving us a little bit of history, because originally you're from Belgium.
Yes, that's right.
And then you made your way to Australia. But with that, a little bit of the history, because also you studied law in Belgium.
Yes, that's right.
Okay,
It's very confusing.
Take me on a journey.
Okay, so I'll tell you a little bit more about. I am from Brussels in Belgium, and this is where I grew up. But I have a Spanish background, so my family was very Mediterranean, influenced, even though we grew up in Belgium, and very bubbly, very artistic as well. We all shared love for dancing. And to be honest, every occasion was the opportunity to just celebrate life. So big gatherings. That's how I grew up, really. And then my grandfather was a very, you could say crazy, but he was just an artist, really craftsman, and he was working with wood. He's been building houses himself. It's insane what he did. And then one day you would walk into the house and there would be a green wall. And then the week after it would be orange. And then he was really like that, like really proper, like crazy artist, My cousin is a musician, choreographer, producer. So he's quite well known in Belgium at the moment. He's doing very well. So this is kind of the background where I came from.
And you studied law.
But then I studied law. So it made absolutely no sense for no one, even for myself. The thing is, I always was drawn to drawing and painting. This is how I really started, my creative journey, if I could say. Yeah. My grandma really pushed me, and she created a bit of an office nook in the living room just for me, mini me. And I spent hours and hours on drawings and painting. And my mom would get upset because she was coming to pick me up and I was never ready to leave because I was always like in the middle of a beautiful artwork. Yeah. And I was just like, it's not the time, Mom, come back later. And she would be like, we gotta go now. You stop it, let's go. So this is how I started playing with colors. I was really obsessed with it. I really was. Anyway, even my teachers were saying to my parents when I was about 5 years old that they should push me, to do the Royal Conservatory at
Yeah.
Brussels. So it's kind
Yeah.
of an art school in Brussels.
Uh-huh.
But then growing up, I kind of lost touch as well with that artistic side. And I started expressing myself through body movement. So dancing became, it replaced drawing, if I can say. But then, you grow up. I started hanging out with friends,
But
going
also
out,
with
travel.
the dancing,
Mhm.
you're a ballet dancer.
Yes, I was.
Yeah.
Yes.
So really
Hmm.
highly disciplined. I mean,
Very, very much.
ballet is, yeah, like,
It is. And then I kind of branched out to different type of dance, and I've done different things. But this was the root. This was the
so
beginning.
I've got a question about that because my daughter studied dance, and then actually one of the girls who works for me, Imogen, she's just been accepted into Australia's best dance school, which means I'm going to lose her at some point next year when she goes. But my daughter and her, that's how I know her, they studied ballet, and
Hmm.
it took quite a few years, I think, for my daughter to kind of just let go and rock out dancing, just, because of that
Hmm.
discipline. There was kind of a
I see.
tightness, not a freedom,
Hmm.
like,
Yes.
because everything had to be perfect, everything,
Yes.
you're nailed on how perfect things are all the time when
Yes.
you're being trained in ballet.
Yes.
Whereas if you're doing, I don't know, like say hip hop or something, there's more expression, or creative dance, there's more expression. So
Yes.
how did you go with this sort
It's
of
true.
discipline of very
Hmm.
rigid, your very rigid
Yes.
ballet to very, as I'm thinking this, my mind's racing. I want to say things that I don't need to say yet,
Yes,
but
I'm more like
about I
slowly and
being in your design work, there is this preciseness that
mhm.
you do in your design work, but there's no rigidity.
I see
It
what you
it
mean, and it's so
flows.
interesting. I
Yeah.
Yes, it's very interesting you pointing that out because it's really the paradox in between technicity in the design world that I think really you gotta really manage that. You gotta know what you do, with your plans, and you gotta read the plans properly, and you gotta be able to, also give very specific instructions to builders and cabinet makers, and this is important.
This is
So it's
almost
kind
the
of
lawyer in you talking now.
Right? This is my training. I'm trying to you know,
Yeah.
stay away from it, but it's there. But then it's very interesting because the ballet it is what it is. If you want to have fun, if you want to be good at it, you got to control your movement. You got to know what you're doing. When it's very precise, it's all about, yeah, discipline. But at
Yeah.
the same time, I feel like once you manage that, you manage your tools, you can really control your movement. You know what movement has to be done when, and what's the choreography and what's going on. That's why you can start having fun. And I feel like in design, to me, you got to go through technicity and understand what's expecting from you as a designer as well, and that it's not only the fun part, but in order to be really creative, you got to know what your tools are. And then
Mhm.
once you really are good at that, you can just play with the tools and create something beautiful. That's why you really can liberate yourself from all that discipline and step out of the tool side of things and really just be
Express.
free,
I
express, create.
I used to train innovation at places like Airbus, and with that,
Mhm.
I used to always impress upon the people that I'd be training or workshopping with, until you know the rules, you don't know what you're breaking. And the rules
Exactly.
have a reason in
Hmm.
the discipline, and they have structure and they're taught, and there's a reason for rules. They either
Yes.
protect or they guide or whatever it is.
Hmm.
Once you know them, now
Hmm.
you're free to manipulate them. Now you're free to
Exactly.
do, and that's like you say, like I'm hearing that same story, but also right from, even with art, it is an
Hmm.
expression, but then there's sort of base foundation rules that make
Hmm.
things work. um
Exactly.
Baking, I think, is one of the most incredible
Hmm.
things. Like you take ingredients, and without a recipe, those ingredients, or with multiple recipes. You could make multiple different things from the same ingredients, but
Yeah.
you need the recipe to put it together. And there's
Exactly.
rules about how chemistry works that make things work or don't work. And then
Exactly.
the same with, design.
Yes, that's exactly right. You got to know what you have in order to create. And I feel like the law school for me, so yes, just growing up, then everyone pushed me to do law. I mean, I don't even know why I did it. My parents always said to me, you just go for law school because you are very strongly opinionated and you have a big mouth. Just do it, you'll be a good lawyer. So this is why I did it. It was all for the wrong reasons. And the fact is I didn't find myself. I knew I was not living my life.
Yeah.
Was not for me. I was doing it and I was able to do it. And I had the capacities to realize that, to go through all the studies and succeed. But I felt like it was wrong. However, I don't feel like I wasted my time because it really kind of gave me an appreciation for rules and discipline. And I think I'm a person who is very disciplined in general in life. And it kind of grounded me as well because when I start being creative, I can also be all over the place. And I have appreciation for rules as well, in a sense that I think I need that. Otherwise, I would be very inconsistent and I would just explode
You need,
and just
yeah,
be spread. And it would, I need that structure.
you need
And
the
it gave me
structure.
that. It really gave me that discipline even more, on top of the ballet. And yes, that's probably why I don't have too many regrets. Even though I wanted to do architecture in the
Yeah,
first place, this was my dream, my
yeah.
like hidden secret dream. I just really wanted to. And everyone was saying to me, "You're not great at math. Don't do this to yourself." Because I was studying ancient Greek and Latin
Don't you
and
just use this
literature.
for, isn't this for math?
Yes,
Calculator.
this is math.
This is,
That's all.
and
I don't need to know
nowadays,
anything else about
nowadays
this.
it's this is the most rudimentary math. Really,
I know.
nowadays it's done in the computer, like
So
that's
see,
so
it was
interesting. Yeah.
it used to be a big regret of mine. It was hard for me to deal with the fact that I've spent years studying law and then I didn't really, do anything with it in the end. And I really wanted to, yeah, to do architecture in the first place. And I always regretted it. But now I kind of cope with it and I accepted it and I'm okay with it. And I see the good in that too,
Yeah, right. I
but then it's never too late.
I always wanted to do architecture as like when I was really young. That was my whole thing. I was like, when I say really young, maybe like, 12, 13, I decided I was going to be an architect. And I'm dyslexic. And so I could never get the marks at school to let me go and study at university. So it wasn't an option. So I did clothing design, which I had so much fun. I went and became a clothing designer and traveled the world and worked all over the globe and doing clothing and a lot of high performance sportswear and stuff like that and women's swimwear and like lots of fun things. And then I came to being a building designer because it's not architecture. And I could have, gone and studied architecture because you could just pay to do that now.
Of
But
course,
back
yes.
when I was wanting to do it as a kid, like I was leaving school and I couldn't get my university entrance exams and just all these things. And so I never got to go and do it. So I became, let's say, a building designer instead of an architect. And I probably spend, I reckon, in the professional sort of circles, about 80% of my time with architects all around the globe.
That's nice.
And I go to architectural conferences and go and sit in their offices and their studios and
Yes.
work in their studios when I'm traveling and stuff like that. But the
You can,
actual discipline of it would have
yes,
been, I would have loved to have studied it, like
yes,
you say. Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
It feels, I think I feel what she's saying. But it doesn't mean you cannot,
No,
learn
no.
with experience
Mm-hmm.
and being around architects and just have a very strong interest in that industry, you know.
Yes, yeah,
It's
for
not, it
sure.
doesn't
Like
stop you from that.
I have every week,
Mhm.
I meet with two groups of architects every week,
Okay.
at one at 5 a.m. and one at 6 a.m. on different days of the morning of the week.
Mhm.
So I meet with a group of about 30 something architects one morning,
Mhm.
and I meet with a group of 5 another morning, and then we critique each other's work. And so they're all
Okay.
architects. I'm not. I'm the
Okay.
one who isn't. But we share our work over,
Mhm.
like we share our work. They're globally situated, so we share our work and we critique each other's work. We, go through the client briefs and stuff like that sometimes together
That's
as
pretty
well.
good.
Yeah, it's cool.
That's interesting. It's good.
Yeah,
I think it's important to have a community of people, you know,
yeah,
sharing the same interest in design and architecture. That's how you grow. That's how you evolve. That's how you learn new
yeah.
things. And you cannot stay on your own, in your little corner, in your studio, working by yourself. It doesn't work that way, you know. You got to
There's
know
an
what's happening.
Yeah, there's an interesting thing with that. So most architectural firms between, 1 and 5 people in a firm. And then there's sort of, it grows from there, but the bulk of them around the world are between 1 and 5. And interior design firms are the same. There's a bulk of them that are at this kind of 1 to 5 people that
Mhm.
work in the same space. And they, out of that 5, they won't all necessarily be creatives either. There'll be some that are
Yeah.
maybe administration type people in that
Mhm.
5, if you get to 5. And it's a fascinating thing to see how, well, I'll give you the example. I
Mhm.
was sitting with 5 other architects just recently in Arkansas in the US. I
Mhm.
was on a architectural conference, and we were sitting and we were having dinner, and I said to them, so out of all of them, every one of them had at least one team member that worked for them.
Mhm.
So one staff member, and some of them had 2 or 3, stuff like that,
Mhm.
but all under 5 in
Okay.
size. And I said to them, who challenges your design
Okay.
and like really challenges it?
Well,
And who in
uh-huh.
your office is a better designer than you?
Okay.
And none of them thought that any of the people in their office were necessarily a better designer than them. They said they really
Okay.
love working with them because they expand their mind.
Yeah.
And none of them said that they had any outside critique outside of their office. In their office, there would usually only be one person that they would explain their work to, not have their work pulled apart
Okay.
by.
Yes.
And I'm
Okay.
like, so does that mean that you are always doing your best work? Which is a smart ass
It is
question.
interesting. Yes. It is interesting.
But unless somebody challenges you, do
Mhm.
you do your best work?
That's right. And it's kind of also parallel to, you know, being in your comfort zone,
Yeah.
accepting critics. I think as a creative, it's kind of very confronting at the beginning of your career, even as a student, I think,
Uh-huh.
when you have to accept people's opinion on your work, and because you put all your
All your
soul
love and
and
soul and heart and
everything
energy.
in, and you think, oh my god, I'm such a genius, and I've been thinking this, and I've made link between this and that, and this is a story, and it's just perfect, and it because it makes sense to you, so
Yes.
you think it will make sense to everyone else.
Yeah.
But then if someone comes in and the teacher tells you, oh, you know, I'm not sure about this, or maybe you should change that, and what about the color scheme, and what about that? And to me, at the beginning, it was like kind of like, oh, this is just really hard to take because you know I thought this was perfect. Why do I have to change it? And you got to learn. You got to be able to disconnect yourself from your ego, really,
Yes.
and accept the fact that hey, this is of course this is my work, and it depends who you like, how you consider yourself as well as a designer, because some designers, I think the design is at the intersection of art, science, engineering. It's all these beautiful things mixed together, and this is where design stands in the middle.
Yep.
And I think that some designers will probably pull more towards being an artist or being a technician, being a scientist, mathematician, whatever. And so, you know, if you see your work as art, then everyone will have a different opinion on what you have created. And as an artist, you have to accept that. You have to accept that people will reject what you do. People won't understand always what you're trying to achieve or what you've done. And you have to step back and take distance and think it's okay, you know? And sometimes I remember, for example, when I was in my study, it was a client brief. It was just an exercise for one of my assessments. And I decided to go with brutalism design for that kitchen and bathroom. And in my classroom, I felt like people didn't really understand what I was doing or coming from. And it felt like it was not like your usual coastal that you find on the Gold Coast, you know. And people were like, yeah, okay. And I was trying to explain them the history behind where it comes from.
Brutalism, right.
Exactly. And I come from Europe, and I feel very, you know, attached to these things and that type of building. And but there was sometimes like people were surprised. They didn't know how to. And at the end, I remember at the end of my presentation, I was like, I've done this because I think it's right with the brief. And I think that this is the way I wanted to do it. And it doesn't matter if you find it pretty or not. I'm not doing this to make it look pretty or aesthetically pleasing. I just wanted to generate a reaction in you. And I had that. And
so it was
that's
art.
it.
It was
And
art.
that's it. And so it was finally kind of like, this is my piece of art, and I don't care if you like it or not, because I think it works. This is right. It feels right, and it works with the client brief. So I've ticked the boxes, you know.
And did you get a good mark?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, really good, because I was kind of like the only really big different assessment to most of my class, because we influenced by the environment. So yeah, Gold Coast is really. Of course.
Yeah. And look, there's so many elements of brutalism that work, you know, like it's interesting, not far from where we live, there's an old fire station. And when I say old, probably built in maybe late 60s, early 70s here on the Sunshine Coast. And my wife was saying to me one day, it's a brutalist style building. And she said to me one day, that is such an ugly building. And it's been sitting empty or maybe partially rented for a while. And I said to her, it's brutalist. That's brutalism. You know, that's the architecture. And she said, why would anybody do that? And I explained where it came from. And I said, I'm going to give you a vision, though. I'm going to give you a vision. I said, okay, take a look at it. So she isn't highly visual. I said, take a look at it and close your eyes and just, can you see what you just looked at? And she's like, yeah. And I said, okay, now I'm going to start at the top and I'm going to drape it with plants. And so I'm going to put some trees here, but then I'm going to actually put plants dripping off all these surfaces. And I'm going to do these different, anyway, went through it, and I'm going to light this piece and I'm not going to light this piece, and I'm going to do this. And she goes, I think I've got it, kind of, I think that I've got what you're saying. And I said, so can you see now how it's layered and it's soft, but it's safe like a cave? So it's got the weight and the energy of being solid and grounded, and you can trust it will always be there. But it is now like a cave, and you're journeying into it, and it's got this beauty where nature surrounds it. And she's like, I said, and I don't know what it's like inside, but maybe put some big light wells so that it's flooded with light internally. And she's like, I see it now. And then I showed her some work of different architects where they would do that. And she goes, well, why don't they do that to that building? You need to talk to somebody.
You need to talk to someone. Do something about it.
Yeah, but just so interesting, like where brutalism in a cold, hard, miserable landscape is brutalism. Put it in a tropical landscape like we're in, and it's a rock. It's solid. You can trust it. So I think it's really cool to do that.
it's different, and I feel like it's seen more and more on the Gold Coast.
Uh-huh.
I feel like it's becoming more and more popular as well for in the last couple of years. But as you said, they softened that very strong
Yeah.
blocks with greenery, and it just works in the end. But what I liked about brutalism is that it really highlighted more the materiality of the building itself.
Hmm.
It's really kind of emphasizes the expression
Yeah.
of what it was, and it was also kind of based on function and simplicity.
Yes.
There is nothing like, it's just not fluffing around. This is what it is,
It is.
and you got
It's
to appreciate it for what it is, and you got to appreciate the history behind. And it yeah, that's what I really liked about that. This is raw, this is naked
yes.
architecture,
Yes.
and it is what it is, and it became a distinct movement in architecture, and it really started
It-
a new movement, and it's amazing. I don't know, I've got appreciation for that, and it
mhm.
was cool to play with that,
I think
surprise
it's
everyone.
fabulous. Look, one of the things I wanted to say then was I believe that architecture really carries a couple of emotions when you look at it. And when I say it carries emotions, I want to say, like, is it coming from the feminine or is it coming from the masculine? And it doesn't mean that it's manly or womanly.
Mm-hmm.
What it means is that
Of course.
what's that energy that it holds. And when you look at brutalism, I go, it comes from a really masculine energy, but it
Mm.
comes from more than that. It comes from a position of dominant power.
Yes, I
Do you
see what
agree or
when you
not?
when you when you talk about, yeah, the energy, it's not the most refined
No.
style. It's not ornate. It doesn't have that delicacy about it. You know what I mean? It's just
Mhm.
not delicate in that sense. So it can be associated to masculinity in a way. But it's interesting because then, as I see here, what's happening on the coast is that they kind of use some elements of brutalism, and then they add these curves, to
Yeah.
add femininity to it. And then
Yeah.
you've got the plants, and then you've got some of the way they playing with lighting as well on
Hmm.
the
Hmm.
facade or on the external, and it just works. It creates something beautiful, and it's a mix of, yeah, feminine,
I
masculine, and it
yeah.
creates something just unique.
And complex, like, because like,
Yes.
I mean, brutalism to me is that sort of masculine dominant power and power, like control kind of the least number of things. And then when I look at like what you were just saying, and I think of, there's a big trend in architecture with screening, screening
Yes.
things. And this is almost like lingerie. It's like lace. It's like you're
Mm-hmm.
seeing the structure behind, but you're seeing it through
Mm-hmm.
elements of different pieces of light and shadow, and you get to look into it
It's true. Yes.
through the architecture.
Yes.
So it gives it transparency, which brutalism has zero transparency. It's like, boom, here I am.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it creates mystery. This other side
Mm-hmm.
creates mystery. Brutalism creates mystery in the fact that, so what is in there? Like, it's like, oh,
Exactly.
there's a
Exactly.
discovery, but it comes
Yes.
from a different emotional state. And I often think that, like our world events shift our take on how much feminine energy and how much masculine energy there is. And like, you're very feminine, and then I'm going, so you made a brutalist kitchen, and it's a lovely play. Again, if I look at, like, listening to your personality with like the structure on, and
Mhm.
the value of structure, and then the value
Yes.
of beauty, that
Yes, you
value
got to
of,
work with both. You
yeah,
got to,
the
it's about
dance.
the balance. Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. I think it's good design or good architecture. I think it's just about balance. Whatever style you go for, I think you just got to find the perfect balance, what really works. And I have always been more attracted to the rawness of things. So I would have appreciation for brutalism movement, for example, because I could see the beauty in it, and you can still make it nice and a bit more refined. For example, if you play with, I don't know, skylights and hold it in the ceiling, and you can let light coming in, for example, at certain times of the day, depending on where the house is facing, and you can create something magical as well there, you know, and unexpected. And I feel like when I started studying design, so it was in 2019 in Australia. Then after my law degree, I kind of was more attracted to the structure itself than the styling side of things, which I started appreciate later on. But to me, it was more about what can we do with this space to transform the wall, just move walls around and then create something without even adding soft furnishings or anything like that. To me, it was unnecessary. I was just trying to focus on what can we do with this just by moving walls, deciding on ceiling height. And, you know, this is really what interested me in the first place. And that's probably why I was also very drawn to contemporary design, a bit more minimalist at the beginning. I know it was kind of a trend. It became something everyone wanted a minimalist house with just beige walls everywhere and emptiness. And well, that's different because I think with COVID also people were so overwhelmed. Well, this is my interpretation of what happened in the world. Maybe it's wrong. I don't know. This is how I felt it. I felt like it was so overwhelming. It was just too much for everyone. And people were naturally, organically drawn to empty spaces, sanctuaries, you know, more minimalist, because they needed that space. They needed to feel in peace, and they needed room, like physical room, to think, to sit down with themselves and process everything that was happening in the world at that time. And I felt like the beige color became so popular at that time. And I don't think it was just random. I think it was because people needed, you know, the space, and they needed to be in a very neutral environment to be able to process.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you.
Overstimulated, too many things.
And also earth tones and earth colors and softness as well in those spaces, like
no stimulation, because it was already there, you know, in real life. You didn't have to recreate the decor.
Well, there was so much uncertainty.
Yes, that's
like
right.
What would happen next? When would it finish? What would, you know, it's like that uncertainty. We as humans tend to react to really strongly. So the first thing we do is we look for things we're certain about, and then being able to make sure our sanctuaries were like, okay. And that's probably why, you know, the whole design world went crazy over COVID, is because people were like, well, I can do this at my house, or I can do this here. I can make myself safe, or myself cocooned. Yeah,
exactly. They wanted to create that very safe, but I think not overwhelming environments. That's how I think that, it's kind of interesting, you know, to put that together with the design trends, etc.
Exactly. The house that you have being featured on Dream Homes Revealed, this home is you created these different moods in this home, but all within the same, I want to say, palette, or not palette, genre, you know, like whether it's a private mood or an intimate mood or a business type mood. And I'm thinking of that. We'll put some photos of this house up, but I'm thinking of the structure that you created, and then the I want to say simplicity. It's not really simplicity. It looks simple, but then it has so much complexity in it. And then it's like, wherever you look, if you take time to just keep looking, suddenly you start to see in under the fabric of everything, and you see the next layer and the next layer and the next layer. So there's this complexity that doesn't present itself at the start, but it's like meeting somebody and learning their personality, like unlayering them, that there's always somewhere more that they can take you. There's always something a little bit extra that you can discover.
Yes,
And I think
it
that's
is
what was
true.
enchanting about that particular home. I mean, there's the things like the marble you use, which is, yeah, you've kind of like can fall into it because it's so beautiful to look at, and it feels the weight that we
You
were
can
talking
feel.
about. They can feel the weight, but there's some big pieces, but there's no brutalism in it at all. Yet the
No.
structure is really obvious everywhere you go.
Yes, yes, it is. And I agree, like it's just interesting you saying this. I'm listening to you and I'm thinking it is true that it's very subtle.
Mm-hmm.
There is not too many, it's not too ornate. So that specific room in the master.
Yeah.
And it feels, I think my aim was to, of course, make the clients feel relaxed in that space.
Mm-hmm.
That was my brief. I just asked
Mm-hmm.
them, how do you want to feel? What do you want?
Ooh.
How do you want to feel about how do you want to feel as soon as you walk in? How do you, yeah, it's yours. This is your
This is what I call an
environment.
emotional floor plan.
Yes.
So
Oh, it
when they
could be,
walk
yes.
in, what did they want to feel? And
Feel,
relaxed was one of
yeah,
it.
relaxed, luxurious.
Yeah.
They wanted that very luxe feel to the space. And these clients, they're amazing. They just travel everywhere. They've
Mm-hmm.
got interesting jobs. They are very busy, extremely busy people. They've seen a lot of things. They've been to a lot of places.
Yeah.
Kind of people who travel to Europe for 2 days for work and then come back. Like that's who they are,
They have
and
very full lives.
it's hard to impress them.
Mm-hmm.
So it was challenging for me to really create something that would, fit what they needed. And I thought, okay, this is what you're giving me. This is how you want to feel, or this is the brief. There is nothing else to look for. I know exactly what you want. I'm just going to propose you a few. I'm going to show you a few proposals, and you tell me if you like it. And then the idea was to have a big shower. The floor plan was really, really messed up in the first place. I have to send you pictures so you can see. I don't know if I did show you, but
Some before and
it was
afters.
just very. Ah, yeah, it's on my Instagram. But I'll send it to you because it's incredible. It was still on level. You had
Yeah.
these two steps.
Yeah.
It was always a little bit
So
above.
for everybody who's listening, what Sarah did was this room has some soft curves to it, as well as it as a room that has the robe and the ensuite and the bedroom and a lounge room and another robe, kind of all open to each other. Yet, even as you transition through each piece, its mood changes. There is a separation of a couple of stairs that take you up into the ensuite, but the opening to the ensuite, there is no door. The opening to the ensuite would be, I don't know, maybe 2.5 meters, maybe something like that.
Yes,
1800
it
to,
would.
yeah, something,
Yes, it would be
maybe,
about 2 meters. Yes,
yeah,
it would.
something
Yes.
around this size. And you look in, and as you look back in, there is a wall of marble, which you don't even see the glass that
Yes.
is like protecting the water from coming out. And you're walking on a beautiful like micro cement floor as well, but the marble takes your attention. And then when you look back from there, you're looking across either out to a view or across soft curtains that are shading the windows. And there's a real sense of tranquility in the room. You can breathe
They
in the
do.
room. It's got space, and
Oh yeah,
it
so much
feels
space.
very, even though it's on the second floor, it feels very kind of grounded. Feels
It
very
does.
like a
I
little
agree.
sanctuary, not a little sanctuary, a large sanctuary. Yeah.
A large century. And then I feel like, as you say, it kind of, I've been lucky to be able to work with these kind of materials.
Mm-hmm.
They're very heavy, we
Mm-hmm.
didn't have to reinforce the floor or anything like that because the house is old. It's an old
Mm-hmm.
house. And it like structurally speaking, it's really strong.
Mm-hmm.
It's brick walls everywhere. It's concrete. So we have been able to use that beautiful natural stone that we've placed inside of the shower, and it's super heavy. Even the glass panel you're describing was, I don't know, 200 kilos. It was
Mm-hmm.
such a challenge
Mm-hmm.
to get it up the stairs and then inside.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone was so stressed that it would break. And so the whole bathroom looks, as you say, it's simple. It's simple, it's functional. But when you start thinking about it and you start looking closer, or if you spend more than 2 minutes in the room, you start to see things that you wouldn't see
Yeah.
at the first
Yeah.
sight. And sorry, my love. And then what happens is the reality was, let's make a huge shower. The
Yes.
clients really wanted to have that that hotel feel. Like, I'm going to a hotel to relax, but at the same time I want to be home. So it was kind of challenging. And we managed to create that. We really did. And then the
Oh,
glass was more there for function,
yeah.
but we didn't want to see it. So we had to go and like install a channel through the ceiling,
Yeah.
make sure it would stay, it would be stable. It was so
Mm-hmm.
heavy in itself that it would stay there. And then inside of the shower, there is no shower grate. It's just a lineal gap, and it is complex, because with the builder and all the traders, we came up with that solution, and it take a lot of thinking,
Yeah.
it's not obvious. And I've never seen that before anywhere. I've never done it. I knew I wanted to do it, and I was thinking, how are we going to achieve this now? And
I
it would change everything. It's about details.
Absolutely, like it's a beautiful seamless detail. And I challenged you the minute we weren't on camera. I'm like, okay, so how did you do this?
Yeah.
um
So now
you
tell
know,
me.
exactly, like I'm like, okay, so I see it. How did you do it? Like, how did you get the clean outs? How did you create all those things? And that
Design
was,
magic.
well, this was one of the things I loved, is that
Mm-hmm.
you told me the process, you told me what you did to
Mm-hmm.
do it, and you told me how it was serviced and all those pieces. And I'm like, this isn't decorating, this is designing. This
It
is
is.
designing.
It
This
is.
is that next level.
Yes.
It's got functionality as well as beauty. And so I think that, in
Thank
our
you.
journey around the home, so many times you would reveal to me like the design journey as
Mhm.
opposed to the decoration journey.
Yes,
And
it's true.
it made me really go. I'd like to thank Stetson Hats Australia for providing my amazing collection of open road Stetson hats. Since 1865, John B. Stetson has been crafting legendary headwear, adorning the heads of Western icons like Annie Oakley and George Custer. The open road hat debuted in 1937, beloved by artists, outlaws, presidents alike. Its timeless style fits the setting from city streets to open plains. Whether in the cab of a truck or my trusty Mini Cooper, the open road is all style. If you think hats aren't for you, you just haven't found the right one yet. Discover yours at stetsonaustralia.com or stetson.com if you're in the USA. Thanks, Stetson, for your support. Please share your Stetson moment by emailing me your photo to talkdesign@gmail.com. Let's celebrate the timeless allure of Stetson together. I love the fact of the depth of your thinking, and
Thank you.
the magic of the way that you are driven to get there with lots of practicality.
Yes, thank you. And I see more myself as a architectural designer
Yeah.
than a decorator, and it didn't come as naturally to me to decorate.
Yes.
Even though I think I had an eye for it, in a
uh,
sense that
I would suggest you do. Yeah. Yeah.
thank you. But I always loved fashion, for example. Like
uh,
when I
yeah.
lived in Brussels, I was just crazy with my clothes, and just like crazy. And it's a huge source of inspiration even today still. But I was not as naturally, I think,
Yeah.
drawn to
Yeah.
that.
I
Well,
think that
yeah.
I think that that's something that you really grasp is the volume of space and the energy that the volume of space creates. And look, I go into a lot of houses, and I know that with my own design work, the volume of space to me is so important. And then it's the volume of light in that space and the volume of air movement, these kinds of different things. And I have a big one, which is the amount of noise. I think noise is our biggest pollutant that we don't see. So, but we hear it. And so I love it when everything gets calmed down and you can just hear what you want to hear as opposed to everything. And I think that was one of the things that, even though that was an existing building, that I really appreciated in coming into what you created, was that the moods would change constantly as I was moving through, but also the volumes were changing, and there's a real sense of when it created intimacy and when it created expansiveness.
Yes.
And in some cases there were some difficult spaces. There were some multiple spaces where, it was more of the same. And then you managed to separate those off beautifully with decor, but shifted the mood in each case.
Yeah, it's true. Yes. I feel like when you talk about space and noise and all of that, it's something that I'm still learning to work with, and I appreciate negative space. And I don't think it's necessary. And I think it's a bit of a stigma that designers and decorators have. It's like, you don't have to fill the space just for the sake of it. It's okay. It's okay if it's a little bit empty here and there, because you still need to walk around and you still need to live in it, You don't clutter it just for the sake of it, and let it be. And if you want to counteract that noise pollution issue because it's too big or too empty, find other ways to do so. Pick the right materials on the walls, on the floor, on the ceiling. I don't know, you can do that, but I don't think I ever want to overdo it. I'm always kind of really thinking, am I overdoing this? I want to keep it pure. I want to keep it raw. I want to keep it. This is the important thing. Let's say for example, curves. I love curves, but I love angles as well. And I think curves are beautiful where they need to be. And I don't want to have them everywhere, because otherwise it loses its beauty as well and its purpose.
I think
it's all about balance.
That balance point. And I was talking to Marlon Blackwell from Blackwell Architects in America, and I was asking him about something with design, and he said, it's in the edit. It's in the edit. It's how much you can take away to still keep it pure. And for those of you who know Marlon Blackwell or go and look at his work, you'll see it's in the edit. And it was one of the most powerful things that he said. And when I worked in fashion, I often used to draw like these really simple shapes. And then we would look and I would look and I'd go, okay, so now what do I have to do for our middle market customer? And, like our real middle market customer. So if my price point was going to be at the top end, I would keep the shapes really simple, but with complexity, like you're saying. And then when I was in my middle market, I would be adding some bits and pieces, some junk to it to make it shiny or whatever, like, so that in that middle market customer, they felt like they were getting something more. Whereas the very top end, it was just editing it down to what it needed to be at its least, and let the fabric do the work, let the person in it do the work,
and the simple shapes. Because I think also what you say is interesting, because I really, really believe that for me, the elegance and the comfort and the beauty is in something, is its simplicity. And I think that people sometimes just overcomplicate things, they overdo it, and then it loses the essence of what it was supposed to be in the beginning. And I think you have to really work on everything you decide for your clients. You got to curate every item. What is this thing going to do in the space? What is it going to add? Is it going to add any value? Does it work with the narrative? We've got the design narrative going on here. Is that going to fit, or is it going to throw out everything out of balance. And then simple shapes are probably, this is the beginning of everything, I think, in the creative process. For example, I think I've done a post on my Instagram about the creative process, because I'm very interested in that. And I really like to listen to different designers and architects and builders and understand where they're coming from, and what they do and how they see it. And to me, there is a dual layer in that inspiration process. You have the natural layer, which is more shapes and forms that you find in nature.
Yes.
It's just there. Everything is a
Yes.
square. Everything is a triangle. Everything is a circle. That's the basics of everything. And then you see that, you get inspired, and this is the beginning of something bigger. For example, that bathroom.
Yeah.
To me, it was really, when I saw that stone at Trinket Design, I really was kind of drawn to it, and it reminded me of a snake skin. I just looked at it and I was like, wow, it's almost like, and there is that mysterious, exotic feel. It's just like,
well, now you say it, I can't not see it.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just weird, huh? And then this was my interpretation of what the stone looked like, and for someone else it would be completely different. And this made me think of that, Amazonian forest, the moodiness, the foggy, like trees. And
I was about to say, it really brings, when you say that snakeskin piece, like, as I say, I can't now not unsee that in my mind. And it's like a luxury handbag or a luxury pair of boots or something like that, or a jacket that might be in snakeskin. And you're looking at the complexities, the little pieces sort of are hidden by the pattern, but then they're all there to look into and journey you into it. And it's almost like a golden python, like a big golden python.
It is. Yeah. And it, as you say, it's very paradoxal to that high-end, beautiful, handbag or shoes. But it's not obvious. It's not.
No, it's not obvious.
Sorry.
It's okay.
In your face. I like this. I like when it's subtle. And I think in Europe, my background, we really appreciate natural beauty in people, in architecture, in everything. It's not as pretty as Australia, in the sense that it's not shining like here. Here you arrive and you're like, wow, everything is clean, everything is beautiful, everything is shiny, people are smiling, it's just perfect. It's perfect. And in Europe, in Belgium, it's not perfect. It's full of imperfection. And you have to appreciate the natural beauty, because no one will make any effort to make it look better than it is. This is what it is. And you have to accommodate, and you have to live with this. You have to live with people being grumpy. You have to live with the shit weather. You have to live with the grayness. And you accommodate, and it's fine, but I still am attached to this, simplicity, functionality, natural beauty in things. And I don't want to take something and make it appear something else. It is what it is. And I want to appreciate the material for what it is. And that's probably where it comes from. But anyway, for the dual layer of inspiration, once you take that natural beauty out of that material, for example, and it reminds you of all that story with the Amazonian forest and all that, it just takes you on a journey. And then you come back to reality and you think, okay, the second layer of inspiration is to see how people, how men took this huge piece of stone out of the ground. With technology and innovation, we've been able to bring a piece of that Brazilian granite into Australia. And then we've been able to use this and put it into my client's bathroom. And so you still have that very strong natural energy of where it comes from. You decided to use that stone. Well, it comes with all these invisible things that are attached, to the essence of the stone. This is, you pick that one. Well, there is a story behind. You have to accept it. If you want to live with this, if you want to have a shower surrounded with
every day,
every day, the energy is there. And when you walk into that shower, and I know it sounds maybe silly, I don't know, but you walk in it, and it makes you feel a certain way.
you said this when we were when we were filming, and I went, okay, so afterwards I went and stood in the shower.
How do you do?
Yeah, I did. Right.
That's really good.
So I'm like,
It sounded really weird. Adrian,
well,
go
is
please
she
in the
is she for real or is she not for real?
have a
And
little shower. Tell me how you feel.
I went round the back of the glass and stood there and just sort of like calmed my farm and, like took a couple of breaths and
Mhm.
just relaxed myself and stood there and went, just be in this rainforest, be with this stone, be with its
Mhm.
history. And
That's right.
massive learning in it for me. And I've done a few showers before in homes I've done where I've had full
Mhm.
marble, but I've never
Mhm.
actually stood in them myself,
Mhm.
even though they were full marble. And there I have when it's been constructed, but never
Yes.
just stood there and breathed and taken the time. And
Mhm.
because you said it, I went, oh. So I went back in and stood in there and went, man, I'm there. It transcends, it takes you on a
It
journey.
feels something. I'm
Yeah.
happy you're saying this because
Yeah.
I'm not crazy.
You are
I was
crazy, but
thinking
that's okay. I'm crazy
I
too.
am.
Yeah, we're both crazy.
We are.
I think those were
Oh.
things that, like, yeah, when you saying it made me take the time to
Mhm.
experience it or to see if I could experience it.
Mhm.
And I have a process I call land whispering, which we do on the land to
Mhm.
experience land. And I took that energy into there. And then, it's like a semi-meditative state and did this sort of
Mhm.
relaxation technique to just get a feel. And
Mhm.
I felt the strength and the weight of that
Mhm.
stone behind me, like
Mhm.
a protector, like I was in a
It's
space that
anchoring.
was anchoring. Yeah. Yeah. And we were
I
talking off
agree.
camera, before about, this feeling of being anchored and knowing where the earth is and feeling grounded and those
Yes,
kind
that's
of
right.
feelings. And I need that in my life. I imagine people who, travel to Europe for 2 days and then come home again,
They
for
need that.
business or whatever, they need that in their life. And when you look at responding to a brief,
Mhm.
that is response to a brief
Yes.
if it makes them feel that way.
Yes, it is.
And yeah, it's wonderful.
And yeah, hopefully it does. So that's good.
I'm sure it does. I'm sure it does, because
It
otherwise
does.
they would have told you, they wouldn't be as in love with it as they are.
Yes, I guess
So,
so. I
yeah.
hope they enjoy it every day. It's a beautiful space to live in. I
Yeah,
wish I
look,
could I wish I could
you'd live there
Airbnb
yourself. Yeah,
the
yeah, yeah,
master.
exactly. Yeah, yeah. I I often laugh with clients and say, yeah, I would love this one for myself. It's
Yes,
not every house that we do that I go, oh, I would want this,
no,
because you're responding to the client as opposed
of
to
course.
myself. There are some that I've done where, or there's more than some, there's quite a few where I've done and I go, oh, this I could live in. This would
Mhm.
be my choice to live this way. And yet the people maybe are different from me, like
Mhm.
they are, but maybe there's just enough commonality in their
Mhm.
outlook on life or their energy around that
Yes. Do you
that
think it's
lines
about
up.
exactly? I think it's about emotion. I think that human beings, we just always constantly under pressure. We need to deliver. We have to be productive. We're working. We're overworking ourselves,
Mhm.
and we often forget about how we feel in general. I think people are very disconnected to the world, the environment they live in, and with themselves as well. And the heart of my design process with clients, to me, the really, really number one most important thing is I want you I want to generate emotions in you. I want you to walk into your house and I want you to feel something that's really touching you. I don't want you to cry every time you walk into your living room, but I want you to feel something, and I want to transform the way you live through the space, through the design. And that's probably my priority number one. And when I hear you say things like that about the master, for example, and how you felt, it makes me feel like I succeeded to the task. I've done what I really wanted, or I was hoping 4 at least. And it's amazing feedback. And the photographer as well, Sam, said to me about the former lounge, downstairs with the whiskey bar.
Yeah.
He said to me, because he sees a lot of beautiful places, like all over Australia.
Well, before you tell me what he said, let me tell you what I saw.
Okay, yeah. Okay, let's do it like that.
Because I've never done that with that space either. So you walk into this room, and the room kind of, you enter from about the middle. And as you're entering the room from about the middle, the kitchen is off to your right-hand side. And then the kitchen looks over a dining area. The dining area has quite a bit of space in it. It's voluminous. And then there's the piece that we're talking about. So outside to the right, there is 2 outdoor kind of settings that are very, very tropical. Like there's big palms and stuff, and they're covered so they protect you from the sunshine. And then when you look straight ahead, you're looking across the water. So you're looking out and across the water. It's quite beautiful. And when you look to your left, though, you get to, so you've got this big expanse of space, but all of a sudden there's this intimacy over on the left. The walls are lined in dark timber, and you're almost, it's like you're looking, I want to say almost like a jewel box sitting on the side. It's something that intrigues you. You go, oh, take me there. Suddenly the volume of size feels more intimate. The color, with the darker walls, it kind of made it feel more intimate again. And then the whiskey cabinet, which was mounted, well, it's part of the wall, so not mounted, it is in the wall, but with the marble behind and the lighting, and then the whiskey bottles and the light coming through them, it's like somebody beckoning you from a window at night. It's like, that there's a building and it's got one light on, and there's something calling you to come and explore.
More than in the other rooms.
Yes. And then the volumes of the sofas, the softness of those sofas also is like inviting you to come and be held or cuddled, or to be embraced. But embraced is probably the word, just to be embraced in the space. And so again, a magical transition within a few meters.
It's true, yes. But did you feel like it worked? It kind of works with which was the challenge as well.
On the right, there's expansive freedom, kind of relax, noisier. In the middle, there's more formality with the dining area. It's kind of semi-formal. And then all of a sudden there you had intimacy. You had intimacy, and you had a real
comfort.
Sense of, and
did
also
you feel comfort?
Oh, totally comfort. It's like embraced, and you can imagine either relaxing in there with a book or relaxing in there with a friend, just pulling back and exploring something, but not with high energy, but just really content sort of feeling.
What was
comfortable, content feeling.
Yes, exactly.
There you go. Now tell me what the photographer said.
So you're right about the sitting down with a friend, and that was the brief. This is more the formal lounge. This was for entertainment. This was for adults only. Kids had their own, rooms, and the TV room, which was the more open, as you say, like indoor, outdoor settings with all the palms behind, a bit more of a fresher, linen sofa, and then it was huge. It's a massive room as well, but it's lighter. And then this formal lounge was really, really made for adults and for entertaining. And they had that whiskey bar. So the client wanted to display a few of his bottles, and he was saying to me, should we do some shelving? And I said, we can go.
I think you overshot the shelving just a little. Yeah. just a little.
I was thinking, how boring is this? Just 2 shelvings in the middle of the wall? That would look wrong. Okay, let's discuss now. What about, whiskey bar? And then he was like, yeah, like that. Keep on going. And so, that's how we ended up creating this. And the photographer said to me, I see so many interiors and buildings in general, like with my work, this is what I do every day. But he said to me, and he has a very good eye for design too, and he's very interested in design and architecture. And he said to me, but honestly, I would have this room in my house the way you've designed it, and I wouldn't change a thing, nothing. I would keep it exactly as it is. And this never happened to me. I never thought that of like seeing a lounge or living room or space and be like, I want this to be my house. I want to
Yes.
take this
Yeah, I
and
want to take this and
implement this
yeah.
in my world. And to me, it was just like, are you serious? Like I was feeling very touched in a way because this is the most beautiful compliment you can get because your clients love it. It's one thing. It's their
Yes.
house, it's their brief.
Yes. It's
But
their
if this
brief.
talks to more than one person, if it talks to you, if it talks to the photographer and you know people who they work in the industry as well, well, to me it's like it's beautiful. It's beautiful. I'm
Yeah.
really happy about that because
I
I think that I can people are touched and they feel emotional about the space I create. And I'm thinking, to me, this is like I look up to designers who do that with me, and I feel
yeah.
like I see their work, and I'm thinking, oh wow, how interesting, how many layers. It's what's going on, what's the story. I want to know everything about who is this been designed for, why they decided to go with this or that, and then
Yeah.
and to be able to have a little bit of this and share it with others, I felt like wow, you know,
I
this is
th
the beginning of a journey for me, and I want to create more and more, and it's motivating me.
I think that it's interesting that you say this. Like, I asked, do you follow on Instagram? And for those of you out there who do or don't yet,
Mm-hmm.
a designer's mind, and it's called a designer's mind. Anyway, there's 1.4 million followers on the designer's mind site.
Okay.
And I asked Phil, who has a designer's mind, that's his Instagram. I asked him the other day, I said, hey, Phil, have you got anything on speakeasies? And he's like, yeah, well, I'll have a dig, you know, have a look around. Anyway, I don't know, probably about 4 or 5 days ago, he posted about 6 different speakeasy bars. And
Hmm.
one of the things that when I was looking at it, at the ones that he did, and I think it was bar number 2 or 3, I can't
Mm-hmm.
remember. It reminded me of the mood that you created in that
Okay.
living room. And
Mm-hmm.
I could imagine that living room, like the photographer said, unplugged and put in another place. I could imagine it like if you went into a, you know, like a bar or a restaurant, you could have this as like a lounge room at the end, you know,
Yes.
or tucked behind a curtain or in a certain space. Yeah, I mean, in the
Yes.
case of that, it's got a water view and everything else. So it doesn't have to be tucked behind, but just
Mm-hmm.
it the proportion, the color,
Mm-hmm.
and the mood would certainly be able to be picked up and put somewhere else and
In a
put somewhere
different
else.
scene and
Sure.
where and it is true that I cannot deny that I have that commercial background in me.
Yeah.
I cannot deny it, it's there. And when I encounter clients who actually appreciate that
Yeah.
and they're big travelers and as I said, they're very busy people and they have an international background as well, they also appreciate, you know, the fact that we can have that hotel inspired, you know,
Yeah.
feel in the room, or for the formal lounge,
But
have
without
that
it,
whiskey bar, jazz
yeah.
music.
Yeah.
That was the inspiration, and everything started from that artwork as well, from Dwayne Hutton in Melbourne. I just saw this piece of art, and I was like, this is it. This talks to me. He paints emotions, and I just love the way he does his work. And I thought this room is going to be about conversation, about sitting down with friends, entertaining, make a cocktail,
It's
and
intimate. It's got an
feeling like
intimacy
you are
to
in a
it.
cave.
Yeah.
Exactly. You could be in Melbourne, you could be in
Yeah.
Sydney, you could be in New York, you could be
Yeah.
anywhere underground, having disconnect from the world.
Yeah.
This is your time to enjoy with your friends, have a drink, relax, and just that's
And
it.
it didn't feel, this is the piece I love about it. It didn't feel like you'd left the home and gone to another space, but emotionally you had shifted in the
Yes.
space I think that was the genius of how you managed to pull that together.
Thank you.
I have a couple of last questions. One is, in your own home, where is your most favorite space and what emotion does it evoke? What feeling and emotion does it evoke?
Okay, spontaneously, I want to say my studio, because I spend so many hours here. And I think I love my office studio at home because this is where I get to disconnect from the rest of the house. This is where I take time for myself. I work a lot, and it's not always easy, but also I'm able to put my little music on and start to get lost in my thoughts, turn my phone off, and just, create, explore, experiment. And it feels like I'm accomplishing something. I'm doing something
Creating.
that's useful. That's useful for someone or for something. And I think as human beings, we all need a goal to work towards. We need that purpose in life. And then to me, when I'm in my office, I'm fulfilling that purpose. So I'm a very hard working person. And it might not always be like that for the rest of my life because I don't have kids at the moment and I might start a family and I might, but for now, I'm really focused on what I want to achieve with Sarah Interiors. And it just makes me feel like I'm useful. I have, this is my purpose in life. This is why I was born.
Feeds your
It's
worthiness.
just, yes, it is. And it's very simple and it's not very glamorous. I think it's in my office and yeah,
that's good. And like I listen to you talk and I go, so it gives you the ability to have your own space and B, to be able to give to others from that space whilst it's feeding you as well.
That's
You
right.
said you put your music on. Have you got a music? Have you got some music songs or anything that you want to share?
Yeah, so oh yeah, definitely. I really like moody music. I'm probably very I think I'm a bit of a stress head. I can be like an anxious person. I like to have control, and I know that I'm aware of who I am. And I feel like moody music, like my partner says that if he listens to what I listen to, he'll be depressed in 2 days. It's just he wants to throw himself out of the window. And to me, it's just that's what I need. That's what makes me happy. So it's just
I need to get you to email me afterwards a couple of song titles and
yes.
and we'll share them. Yeah.
We can share them. I love Agnes Obel.
Agnes
I don't know if you
Obel.
know her.
No.
It's classical music and she's amazing. I just the mood is just what I need. It's what I love. And that's the kind of music I kind of listen to when I work. It just takes me somewhere. I've been voted, on Spotify at the end of the year. They tell you what kind of music you've listened to the most, da 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 da. And I've been described as a vampire because they've got different sections. And I was like, what do you mean? I'm a vampire. Like, okay, I accept it. No worries.
I love
Apparently,
it.
that's
I'm
what I
gonna go
am
and
as
have
a
it.
listener.
I'm gonna you can send me a couple of tracks.
I'll
That'll be
send it to you.
fun.
And then, oh yeah, you tell me what you think about that. I'm curious to know
I
your thoughts
will.
on this.
Yeah. And then one last question, which would be, if you only had one project that you could do, this is it, one last project, can't do any more, what would you choose?
Okay, that's a hard one because so if I really could pick and create my perfect project, you mean, and perfect client and in a perfect world, I think it would be a house rather than commercial. The client would be someone who is interested in art and educated people who are open to be taken on a design journey, people who have opinions but also are smart enough to be able to let go. in that sense and
They'll
trust
grow on the
me as a
journey.
designer, people who I can have a conversation with. And it's hard to describe a style because I feel like I probably have my signature. My style is my client's brief, obviously, but also it's Sarah Interiors. This is what it is. And there is a signature, I think, because this is, even if I'm trying to this take myself out of my business and be aware that we are two different entities. In the end, I'm aware that I will always kind of like, yeah, I'll be there. I'll be Sarah Interiors in a way.
Mm-hmm.
And no matter the style they want, I would make it work with my own signature. I'll take whatever they want and I elevate it and I'll just make it so that it works with the lifestyle and who they are and what they want. It's hard, yeah.
What country would it be in?
In what I would say a city. It will be a city. It will be a bit, yeah, I want it to be a city. I would love Melbourne.
Oh, it'd be in Australia as well?
Listening.
Yeah, it'd be in Australia? Okay.
It'd be in Australia.
I thought we were going to go to Iceland then.
Iceland. Yeah.
I thought you were going to take me to Reykjavik. And for those of you who are listening, we had a conversation before we started, which was about how Sarah actually loves the rain and how Iceland was like being in Reykjavik was just amazing for her and how she enjoyed it so much being in that space. Not that she doesn't enjoy being here. It's just such the contrast. And that's part of who you are as well, I think, is that contrast.
I think so too.
I think so,
the moodiness of Iceland. I think what I like in life in general, I think it's that I like diversity, multidimensional. I like people with different layers. I like designs with different layers. I like countries where you've got different options. In Belgium, where I come from, it's very limited, very flat, as we discussed about. And it's not, there is something if you go to the city and you explore the architecture, it's interesting. There are like things to see and appreciate.
Yeah.
But yeah, Iceland to me was just a very inspiring place. But I don't know if I would be able, see, this is limitation.
Last project.
Maybe,
because
I've never, maybe. Because I feel like I know Australia, I'm designing here, I've learned everything here. So I feel like for me to transition to a different country and to apply my knowledge from here over there, do I need more practice? Do I need more training before it happens? And on the long term, I'm not going to lie, it's kind of the goal. We want to go back to Europe at some stage. Not tomorrow, not next year. Maybe in 5-10 years, who knows?
Yeah.
But I would like to do what I do here over there in France or in Belgium, or we don't know yet where in Europe, but that's probably where how it's gonna go.
I've got a friend and she has an interior design business in London and in New York. So she operates in both. She's on the podcast, Christina. She operates in both of those places.
Okay.
And she has a really interesting story as well. But just, it is interesting that you can be in multi-dimensional spaces like that. You can, be in both.
The international side of things is definitely, I think it's who I am. I've been traveling so much. I live in a country where I wasn't born in, you have to be able to adapt.
Yeah. Sarah, what a wonderful conversation. And to the listeners, please send us in questions, ask, we will post all Sarah's details and all the rest. You can find her and have her do some of her wonderful work for you.
Thanks.
Beyond that, watch out for her coming up in season 3 of Dream Homes Revealed, because we had the most fabulous time there. And we will post some pictures of some of the things we've talked about as well. Yeah. Go and follow her on Instagram. We'll send you all those things. Obviously, they'll be on the website along with her other details. Yeah. Sarah, thank you. Have the most wonderful day. I look forward to catching up on the Gold Coast. It's only 3 hours from me. So I'm headed down there. I don't know exactly when, sometime soon. We will catch up. Go and wine or
A
whiskey.
cheeky wine,
Yeah,
a
cheeky
whiskey
wine, a
maybe.
cheeky
That that
whiskey.
would that would
Yeah,
that would make
yeah,
that would make sense, right? Well,
yeah.
no, thank you so much for having me. Oh, it's always a pleasure talking to you. I could talk like for hours with you about design
Likewise.
and
I think we should find some other topics and come back and talk about them,
Mhm.
within design.
Yes,
Come back
of
and,
course.
and make some more podcasts and talk
So many
about
things to
maybe
say.
processes and stuff. And I'd love to talk to you.
Yes.
Your business is relatively new. I'd love to talk to you about
hmm
what you have brought from being a lawyer, being, those other formally kind of trained areas, and how that's made you approach your business differently. And that could be valuable for our listeners as well.
Of
Yeah.
course, yes. Would
Yeah.
love that.
Cool.
Anytime.
Awesome. Well, thank you
Perfect.
for your time.
Thank you, Adrienne. I
Have a wonderful
appreciate.
day.
I hope to see you soon. You too.
Cheers, hon. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for tuning into our conversation. I hope it left you both informed and inspired. Don't forget to subscribe wherever you listen. And please don't hesitate to share your design thoughts with me. It's always a joy to hear from you. If you're like me and crave a deeper dive into design thinking, coupled with a love for travel and adventure, consider one of my architectural adventures. Join me and some of my wonderful design friends and embark on a journey of a lifetime. Apply for an unforgettable design experience at adrianramsey.com. With our clients spanning the globe, I firmly believe behind every great project are great people. If you're a great person and seeking to turn your dream into a reality, I'd be honored to design your home with you. Why not join the ranks of our exceptional clients and let's make your heart sing? Reach out to me at studio@ardesignhouse.com. That's studio@ardesignhouse.com, and let's get a conversation going and make your heart sing.